Hello and welcome to the Physiology of Endurance Running podcast. I'm Owain. I'm joined by Dan. How's it going, Dan?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, I have a functioning knee again, two functioning knees, which is
Nice.
always nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, enjoying getting fit.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
in some ways it's nice, isn't it? When you're not that, I'm not super unfit, but when you've been out of it a little bit, and then every session just feels like it gets a bit better and a bit better.
Yeah.
I think that's starting to wear off now, but it's quite nice, and you just start from a place of not being super fatigued and just build it up slowly. So yeah.
Yeah, those first
Doing
couple of
alright.
sessions you can sneak them in and you feel like, whoa, I'm flying. And then you get some chronic fatigue and starts to hit you, doesn't it? Yeah, so we're doing a listener Q&A this week. I mean, we're recording the Tuesday after London. I guess the idea when we planned this was that you would have just done London, and I'd have
you'll be
100K
just going into your
weekend,
100K. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. We thought we would not have too much research this week. Obviously, London didn't end up happening, but we've got some questions about it. So
it's been a good source of inspiration for our listeners. We've got a lot of questions on it, so that'd be good.
Before we start, as always, we're sponsored by SOAR. SOAR had a bunch of events over the weekend for London Marathon, and then I saw loads of SOAR kit as well on the runners when I was watching on TV. I also saw the female podium at Manchester was entirely wearing SOAR, which is...
You can't avoid them. We can't avoid them. It's because they're good.
Yeah, really good quality.
Especially now it's heating up. You want a decent vest like that doesn't just. I remember I've run in some awful vests, like some university vests, which just soak up liquid. And they just sit on you and you're just saturated. Whereas, you get a decent vest, worth paying a bit of money for it, and makes such a difference. Even just perceptually, not having something stick to your top.
And I'd say as well, worth paying a bit of money because it lasts. And I've listened to a couple of interviews with the founder of SOAR, and one of the points he makes is that if you're buying something really cheap, someone is getting screwed over somewhere along the line, and quite often that's probably the person in the factory or the environment, and that's a nice way of looking at it. Like, it's a bit more expensive, but it's probably a bit more sustainable, as well as being really good functioning gear. And thank you also for everyone that entered our SOAR giveaway. We had a really good response to that, and really cool to do a bit of a competition with SOAR. I think SOAR picked out the winner. They should be contacted.
At random, I've got to say,
No, thank you for the response. It's really cool to see. And thank you, SOAR, as always.
Nice. So before we jump into our Q&As, how are you feeling a few days out from 100K?
I guess not bad. We were talking just before. Like, I don't really have much like feel, which I feel like is important to me in terms of, when I'm fit and feeling really good. Not that I'm not fit, but when I'm feeling like in a training block and feeling like it's going well, I don't even need to look at my watch. Like, I know what pace I'm running, and my heart rate reflects that, and my RPE reflects that. And at the moment, I've not quite got that. But no, I think I don't feel like I have any pressure really. Like, just go and have a smart race. Like, don't do anything stupid. Like, it's an awfully long way, 100 kilometers, and there's so much time for the race to develop, and for me as well, like, it's just about like learning and having a positive experience, and just enjoying it. Like, I was thinking today when I was running, I was like, like, do the race, have a break, and then I've not got really any pressure on any big race. That's one of our questions in a minute, but like, nothing big planned. But just thinking, like, at the end of the year, I'm going to look back and think like shit, like I got to run for Wales. Like, that's really cool.
It's really cool. And like, you should have no expectations. You've had a tight turnaround from a 40-mile race. First 100K on the roads. It's not going to be great conditions. It's going to be a bit warm, hopefully a bit cooler than today, but at 20 odd degrees. But it's not going to be perfect. So no one's going to be running super fast. just focus on executing it well,
Yep.
pacing it well, not blowing up, avoid walking,
Yep.
and you'll come out going, yeah, that was a good experience. That should be the aim, I think.
Yeah. Just enjoy it. Yeah. Yeah, and then I mean, we'll jump. One of the questions from Chris Hughes was got races for the year. Like after that, taking a couple of weeks off, and then
turn into a cyclist again, is it? Yeah.
I want to do a few orienteering races over the summer. Like I really like orienteering. I don't do enough of it. And some fell races as well.
Yeah. Nice. Elliot today, shout out, was telling me that he's a bit scared of you coming back to the orienteering.
Yeah.
As long as you don't run with Rachel. He says he's a better navigator than you, but you're fitter than him. So he's.
Oh,
he says a minute he just says he's dominating all these races and he's waiting for you to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, the first orienteering race is 4 days after this 100k, so I'm gonna enter the short course and just walk it and just practice my my navigation.
Nice.
We need to do it. Orienteering is such a cool, like, because you have to think you can only go as fast as your brain, which is kind of it's an interesting concept.
Push yourself so hard, but you can't read a map.
Yeah, and it's reading the map and making smart choices, which is it's cool. But that's
we'll do physiology of orienteering.
Yeah.
For next episode.
Yeah, but then like watching London at the weekend, I did think like maybe I should do a marathon sooner rather than later again.
Autumn marathon.
But then like there's no why I think we've said this on here before. Why are the two biggest marathons in the UK on the same day?
Why are the three biggest marathons? Well, why are the four biggest marathons in the UK all in the spring? You got London, Manchester, Brighton, and I'm going to put Newport in the mix probably as the fourth biggest. It's headline, especially when it's a festival of running. You know, across all the events, there's a lot of people. Why would you put them all in the spring and then in the autumn you've got Milton Keynes or something like that?
Yeah. Slagging off Milton Keynes.
Not saying that it's not a good marathon, but I'm pretty sure it's not on closed roads or anything, is it?
No. No, and you know, like just take London and Manchester. Like nothing's, you know, they're such big races, and it's mad they're on the same day. Like what? Well, London's obviously not going to move.
You got Edinburgh as well in the spring, haven't you?
Yeah, that's a week later maybe. I don't know.
End of May.
Okay.
Yeah, but
then you bring in like warm weather, don't you? And
no, it's a silly time to have a marathon.
Yeah. But yeah, like like autumn marathon, but then you're looking at, you know, going to Spain. I did think like really, you know,
have to go abroad.
And I'd really like to go somewhere like Japan. And then you're like, well, if you're going to Japan, like I'd love to do a race out there. So then, but you know, that's an expensive trip. And
I did think you've jumped from going to Europe to actually I'll go to Japan.
Milton Keynes to Japan is a big jump.
Right. So
what about you?
I'm still working out his races for the post 100k minus some orienteering, but he's going to walk around. So my big one, I'm 100% going back to Valencia in December. It's so fast, isn't it? I'm 2 for 2 for PBs. I think it's probably the fastest marathon in the world, maybe Seville, but I think Valencia's got even more depth. So I'll be going back there. The Wales is also sending a team again, so I should be on. It's not been picked yet, but based on the selection policy, I should automatically be selected for being number 2 in Wales from December.
Yeah.
So that's the big one. But yeah, I want to spend the next few weeks getting fit, and then I think this is like, I sort of see the positive of not doing London is that I've got more time to focus on the shorter stuff. I'm on my way up now already, and I don't have to do a recovery period and then build up again. So I'm hoping that will give me a longer summer to race or get fit and then race. So goals for me are sub 14 5k, sub 29 10k. Tick that box. And then maybe no more 5Ks ever again. I don't know. Probably not. But I'd just love to do that from a personal achievement point of view. Like, you're never going to make a team with a sub, just, you know, running 13:50 for 5K or 28:50 for 10K. But I'd like to get in that bracket.
It's a nice round number, isn't it?
Yeah, just, you know, it's arbitrary, isn't it? It's arbitrary, but I feel like that's within my grasp. That's within my capabilities, but I'm not going to go much further, if that makes sense. I feel like I'll have pretty much maxed out what I could do at shorter stuff. So yeah, I think the other thing that's nice about racing a marathon in Valencia in December is that you can then go. There's so many races like September, October time, but you can go and really have a good go at, and then do your marathon block, October, November, and get specifically fit.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work well last year. Go back and do that. So
Yeah.
I guess my big goal race is Valencia, but if I can run a fast 5K, 10K as well, I'll be very happy.
Yeah. Sounds good. Maybe road to Valencia again.
Yeah, we might have recovered from Road 2 series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had enough of a break. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, London. We had a bunch of questions about London. I mean, did you watch? Because I feel like I saw you'd run during it.
So I did a bit of weird. It's always a bit tricky to watch London when you got a kid, and my parents were staying as well. So like the opportunity to run was whilst they were looking at watching Nye before we went home. So I did a bit of watching it before. I ran half an hour by myself, caught a little bit of the updates, ran an hour with Jemima, came back, saw a bit more of the updates, and then just as I was finishing the my second half hour, the men's race was finishing.
Yeah.
So I got the gist of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like let's like we focus on physiology, but like we're fans of the sport. Like the coverage was pretty crap. Like I was on the elite feed, and they only had cameras on the leading groups. And then in the afternoon, like I briefly turned on some cycling, turned on Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and they've got, motorbikes on multiple groups, and there's a women's race going on as well. And it's like one of the best produced marathons, like I think, to watch is like Rotterdam, because they just take all of their cycling infrastructure, and every single group has a motorbike with a camera.
It's what it should be like, shouldn't it? Yeah, it's not that, with the size of London, it's not that much of an outlay to get a few more bikes with cameras, is there?
Yeah.
And a good editor who's piecing it all together and telling the story, telling the narrative, especially in a women's race when it breaks up so much, because you can't tell the British story, the British race story, when you've just got a camera at the front.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same with the men's, but like even more so with the women's.
I was just getting updates from friends that were there sending videos through. So like I think we really briefly saw Eilish get dropped from, I think she went with the lead group, and then that was it. And you have no idea. And then in the men's race, like you saw the leading Brits come across Tower Bridge, and that was it until you saw Mohammed.
Yeah.
Like in the final few hundred meters. And like somewhat cynically, like I don't really think London Marathon Events cares, because they're going to get 1 million people in the ballot this year. Like,
I mean, it's the biggest marathon ever, isn't it? Apparently.
Yeah.
56,000 people.
They're making loads of money, so they don't really care about showing the event. But I don't know. It was frustrating at times, and then even I know there's loads of there's essentially 4 races going on at once. Although I think the wheelchair races had finished, but like the men's race, like they were coming through Canary Wharf, and you could sort of see like Tolu had gone to the front, and it's like, oh, is he gonna, like, you've got all the turns, is someone gonna like absolutely whack it out of one of these turns and just blow the race up? And then his name slipped my mind, but the guy that won in the end did. And then they cut away to the women's race, which is fine. The women's race was also in a decisive moment, but completely cut, like no split screen. Yeah. And then you come back and he's got like a 50-meter lead, and it's like, well, that's the race. Like the race is done. Yeah.
Well, it's like last year when they went into the tunnel and there was a big pack of people. They came out of the tunnel. It was just Emile Carrès, wasn't it? Yeah. And everyone had dropped out. Like at the like 23-mile mark, isn't it? When you go through the underpass.
Yeah. So it was frustrating to watch. Like I don't actually think you missed terribly much not actually watching it, but
you can see normally you can see the story just as well by looking at the tracker, can't you? Going, what's going on here? And it's not as nearly as interesting, but it's just a shame that we haven't got split screens in this day and age, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you
Well,
can,
we do in plenty of other races, but
well, yeah, just not in athletics. Even after, even on the track, like they'd struggle, don't they?
Yeah.
But anyway,
So
the first question we've got is thoughts on London with pretty much everyone blowing up. Heat or terrible pacing.
yeah,
Um,
that's from Isaac, Cardiff Met. I think Isaac runs for Tonbridge, so
he does, yeah.
good day for them, I think, with Cole Gibbons as well.
Yeah.
So
it was heat or terrible pacing. What are your thoughts?
I think probably for a lot of people, not very good pacing marks. Well, no, in fact, I think it maybe, I don't know. Is it a bit of a chicken and egg thing? Like, if it's hot, you need to change your pacing. Like, the heat isn't the thing that caused. If we're saying the blow up is the end result, then running too fast causes that. So it's always going to be pacing. Like, yeah, if it's hot, you're going to have to slow down. So if the question was, were the times slower because of the heat? Like, yes. But then the heat, you need to change your pacing, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts, before Isaac had even sent this question in, was 90% of people blow up at London when it's good conditions. It's one of the reasons I specifically wanted to go and do London was because it's always a bit of a car crash. And I did feel like, without blowing my own trumpet, one of my strengths is I am good at executing on the day and pacing, and using a mixture of heart rate, RP, and pacing to, and pace to even or negative split. And yeah, the heat was 100% a factor that magnified the situation, especially because we've gone from reasonably cool temperatures to suddenly it getting a bit warmer.
Yeah.
But it wasn't extreme heat. And it was, to start off with, in the day, I wasn't there, but from the Met office, it wasn't hot from mile one. It warmed up later. So if anything, it's going to penalize the people out there for 4 or 5 hours more than those people who were running sub 3. But if you look at the winning times, they were pretty good. Like, it was a women's only world record, 2:02 for the men, like, which again, like, it's not a 2:01, which London has been won in, but only the best ever are winning it in 2:01 when we're talking about Kipchoge.
And that's a tactics thing as much. Like, they were in a big group.
Yeah. So I don't think the heat was a factor, but I think the pacing was more of a factor.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people whose pacing would have gone wrong anyway later into the race that just blew up earlier, and that's why there's some tremendous blow ups.
Yeah, it's 100% magnifies it, doesn't it? The heat, but I don't think the conditions were dreadful. I do think a lot of it is just people are not very good at pacing marathons. I mean, again, not to blow my own trumpet, but I had 2 athletes running. They both even or negative splitted and both PB'd.
I was going to say, actually, one of them there, I'm just getting the graph up, or on the app, it tells you what position they're in, and one of them, where are we? I think it was the second one. This is Sam. He went from, at 25k he was 314th, and at 30k he was 164th. So he's passed 150 people in 5k.
Yeah.
And
shout out to both Jonathan and Sam. You did fantastically executed races and rewarded. I mean, it's not just the execution of the day; it's the training and putting all the effort in. But yeah, they both ran really well and held their nerve. Especially Sam, because his dream goal is to go sub 2:30, and he ran 2:29.59. But he went through halfway, like 90 seconds down on his needed time to do that. So 70 76:30 or something through halfway, I think.
And I guess
it's a skill. It's a skill that people underappreciate. I think people think about the training and but it's being both honest with yourself and having the control on the day to go, you know what, I thought I was going to be able to run 3:30 Ks, but this is feeling too hard, like 5k in. let's back off now, and having the cognitive dissonance to, well, the cognitive ability to just go, right, you know what, to get rid of the ego, this is too fast.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what a lot of people do, and I've done this before, is this feels too hard, but it might get better. I'm just going to keep it going. And then and there's only one way that's going to go, and that's a big blow up.
Yeah.
So yeah, the heat wasn't perfect, but London is the same every year. Like the number of people who negative split or even split is low.
And
it's not helped because there's a big downhill in the first 5K, isn't there? So that's,
there was another question, like similar vein, Freddie Evans. Why do you think everyone ran a positive split at London? I think the course plays a part, because that first 5K is downhill.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess one of the sort of, follow-ups is like, what would our approach have been on Sunday? And I think, it's fairly straightforward. It's just go a bit slower at the start, because there was so much time to be gained in the second half. But I guess you do have to think with London, like how do you manage that when the first 5K is like the hill at 5K is pretty substantial.
Yeah, I think that's why it's even more important to pay attention to those things that aren't pace, like your just your RPE, your effort levels, your heart rate, because you want an even, you want the, I guess it's not, intensity is just going to build throughout, but it's that metabolic cost should be spread evenly across the marathon. It's going to cost you more to put out that, the same amount of energy later on because your economy's got worse and whatever. But that is part. Yeah, the hill is one factor, but you're not, it's not maybe it's 20-30 seconds maximum. Like you're gaining from that first half versus the second half. I think more like 15 to 20 seconds probably. And people are blowing up by 10-15 minutes. More in some cases. But we won't pull any names out because they are probably suffering enough already. Definitely it's hard. It's not easy to do. I got it wrong so many times before I started getting it right, but it's just learning from your mistakes and going right next time. So anyone who did blow up, what I would do is go and look at your heart rate in the first half and go, right, what was it? That was obviously too hard. Next time you do a marathon, think about how you were feeling at that point, thinking about your heart rate and go, right, I need to dial it back a notch or two, or maybe three if you really blew up. That's what you can take from that bad day. And that was my approach. That's what I did. And from then I've only had good, well executed marathons.
So another London specific question. I think it's fairly obvious, but from Neil, was it harder for the elite women that were obviously in their own separate race, or being in the mass start with men pacing? It's obviously harder to run on your own, and take Philly. You paced her at Berlin, and you also, like, from the video footage, you had people around you most of the way.
The whole way.
At London,
it spread out a bit at the end. Yeah, the last 5K, 10K spread out a bit, but there were still people to chase. I mean, London, unless you're one of the best women in the world, it's miserable from what I see.
Yeah, and it looked like she had to make a decision, went with a group a bit, and then, I mean, I guess we'll wait for the video to see what exactly happened, but then was on her own the rest of the way. And that's, you're just running a time trial with lots of people watching you. Which I wouldn't really want to do myself.
Yeah, and when it's, and it just amplifies it when you've gone out too hard and you've ended up by yourself. Like even like Eilish, like, she's gone out at 2:18 pace and she ends, she's every 5K is just slower. Even if you've got the best mental resilience ever, like you can't do much about that. If you've got some people running with you, it's going to help a little bit. Just get on the back of a group. Psychologically, that does make it easier. A bit of a drafting factor if it's a windy day. Even if it's a cool day, maybe mildly, but probably not that much in running, unless you're going really fast. Like obviously, it was that was a big part of the planning for the Breaking 2 project, wasn't it?
I think, to be honest, that needs, like, I think we should do an episode on that, because like Nike is claiming that's how they're going to get the sub-4 women's mile.
And that'd be cool to see. Yeah, I'm going to see how they're going to go about that, because Faith is an incredible runner, but she's like 8 seconds off at the minute, isn't she? Something
Yeah,
like that.
I know they talked about on the Science of Sport podcast, like, what, they're just going to put like a big like plastic, I don't know, you'd almost call it like a chassis, but like in front of her to
Yeah.
block the wind.
A
Like, what are they
windbreak.
going to do? Because she's already wearing like skin tight clothing,
Yeah.
so there's not really many.
Sit behind a bunch of men.
Yeah, but yeah, even how much that doesn't make 10 or 8 seconds, does it?
A load of bicarb. Some completely illegal shoes. Not running in spikes, running in super
Yeah.
shoes.
Yeah, because there's no rules for this.
No.
It's a bit. Yeah, we've gone on a tangent. It's a bit Mickey Mouse, I think.
Have you seen that video of what's his name? The US sprinter who came back from a doping ban.
There's a few.
Yeah. Oh God, what's his name? Who beat Bolt, didn't he, over 100 over
Coleman?
Oh no, it wasn't Coleman. It was the guy before him. Oh, flipping heck. There's a video of him doing 100 meters in Japan and him running like 9.4, but he's running past like 10 fans all spaced out.
Yeah.
So he's got like a 10 meter per second tailwind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll do stuff, because I've heard about stuff with that, like with team pursuits. Like, I've heard it be mentioned that like suddenly like doors get opened in velodromes and you get like a tail, like you get the wind moving around in a velodrome. And people sort of manipulating that, or like you open the door in a velodrome and it changes the air pressure. Like, there's a lot of little things like that you can do. But
Justin Gatlin. Yeah. I mean, it's quite funny to watch because he's absolutely flying,
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, you got sidetracked. It'll be interesting to see how they go about that.
Related to London and Manchester as well, from Alan, who said he suffered from 30k on at Manchester. Best ways to handle the heat. I mean, it's modified pacing.
It is modified pacing, and yeah, 100%. And yeah, because one of the issues is that the faster you run, the higher intensity you run at, the more energy you burn, and humans are only 20% efficient, give or take. So all that extra energy is produced as heat. And that's obviously going to be detrimental if the climate is already hot. The temperature gradient is going to be less. You're going to be able to less effectively lose that heat, and that's going to force you to slow down because your blood volume is directed to other places. You've got temperature sensors in your brain that are going to shut you down before your core temperature gets too high and you start cooking yourself. So it's a combination of pacing on the day, doing heat prep like we've talked about before. Now we will, as we go into the summer, we will all just, I don't know why I'm talking about this, you're more of an expert on this than me, but going into the summer, you are going to become more acclimatized by adaptations for sweat rate and increased blood volume, etc.
Yeah.
But you can also do that.
You can do it in quite a short time. And I wasn't paying much attention. I don't know how far out it was known that it was possibly going to be, warmer at London and Manchester. But like I considered it this week in preparation for a race on Saturday. Like on Monday, I thought like, could I maybe go find a sauna somewhere and just do like 25 minutes, 3 or 4 days? Like that will increase my plasma volume and have some benefit. But I just decided it's probably more likely to cause me issues in terms of the taper.
You'd probably want to have
logistically a bit hard, but
wouldn't you? You probably want to have tried it before.
Yeah.
But the adaptations
you can do it quick.
Are super quick. Like in a week, you can be so much more acclimatized than 7 days of an intervention versus 0 days of intervention. Blood volume expands very quickly. Like 2 or 3 days, you're going to increase there. Just our perception of heat, of how well we're tolerating the heat, gets better. So yeah, I think it's doing things like going in a sauna, going in a hot tub, but probably more like for the perceptual stuff, running on a treadmill with a few layers on and no fans, or going out for a run on a warm day with loads of layers on. Like that sort of stuff is going to cause both physiological and psychological adaptations very quickly. But it's always it's one of the disadvantages to the spring marathons are if it suddenly gets warm, you are not that well acclimatized to it unless you've been very deliberately doing it. So it's it's being organized, and also just being honest with the pacing strategies.
Yeah. In terms of on the day, it's pacing.
Just being more conservative, because the other thing is you're going to have more drift in your heart rate, your energy cost in a hot day versus a cool day. So you need to start out even more conservatively, but know that you're going to start getting worse pretty quickly. Whereas if it's a cool day, you can actually be hurting a bit more early, but with the idea that you're going to be more stable at that intensity, because you are not, your blood volume is not going to deplete as much. Like your core temperature is not going to get up as high. All of these things are going to just increase the amount of drift and physiological drift you experience over the course of a marathon.
Yeah. One last one on London. This was from Ben on we've got a Google form for questions as well. And this was a couple of weeks ago. This must have been just after the last of the Road to London episodes. And he sent a message saying, just wanted to say thank you for this wonderful podcast, and especially the last episode. I'm due to run the London Marathon in a more modest target time than Dan of 4 hours 15. Similarly, I've had an injury to my hip this week and cannot run on it. I found Dan's story comforting and reassuring. All I can do is cross-train and see how the hip shapes up. Thanks, from Ben. So yeah, let us know, Ben, how you got on.
We should have looked this up. Have you got a surname?
No, we don't have a surname.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know, Ben.
I guess, yeah. A few people have also messaged me saying, are you glad and are you having regrets about London or not? Because I've actually been doing I ran 100 miles, 160k last week, and I could have gone and run it, but I've got no regrets about my decision. I don't think I like I said, I'd have liked to have run in a hotter course on a hotter day. I think it would have played to my strengths of pacing it well. And yeah, I'm not going to run as fast, but in terms of the British rankings, I think I could have been up there had I been fully fit. But I think it's. Would I prefer to have gone around and risked injury and run 219, 220? I've run sub 220. I think I'm on 8 times sub 220 now. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. So. And I didn't want to go and end up ending up having a DNF because suddenly I've overdone it and my knee is screwed up with 5k to go, or likewise having a really long recovery time. I can just get cracked straight back into training now and reassess and go for different goals. So thanks for everyone who has reached out, because I appreciate it, but I think I made the right decision.
Yeah, especially when you saw that weather forecast.
yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to be, even if I'd been, I still, would I have PB'd? I don't know. It's with the fact that it was a bit warmer and London isn't as fast a course as Valencia. I don't think I would have PB'd, but I think I would have been not a million miles off. So we'll see. We'll never know, will we? We'll never know. Yeah. It's all a hypothetical, and the decision's been made, and we move on, don't we?
Shame you're in 210 shape.
Yeah. I was in 210 shape. 209, I think.
Yeah.
Alex Yehu, I would have, yeah. That's a good one. Alex Yehu, what do you reckon? 211?
Yeah, I listened to an interview of him on Matt Stevens' podcast. It's really good, actually. He was saying like they've targeted the marathon because they want to improve his thresholds. So I was like, that's a nice, like, he seems really, well, he did an undergrad in sports science. He seems pretty switched on. So yeah, it sounded like his view was like this just benefits my running for the triathlon.
Yeah.
And and he said on there, I think he said he would like to go sub 210, but it was
the YouTube series was good.
Yeah,
Have you
that
seen
was
that?
good as well,
Yeah, I'd give that a watch.
Yeah.
I thought he'd run 209. They went out faster than that, didn't they? 208 pace, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, like we said about the women, but it's the same for the men. Like, you've got a group just in front of you.
Yeah.
What do you do? Tough.
I mean, it's not. It was not. It's a solid debut, isn't it? A solid debut, but it also just goes to show, like, he's a fantastic runner. Yeah, fantastic runner.
Yeah.
Best. Well, one of certainly the top 2 runners in the triathlon field, isn't he? With Hayden Wild, but the best in the world are just another league on. They're 3 kilometers up the road, aren't they?
Yeah.
when Alex E finishes, they're done. They were done. Well, not quite 3K, were they? What is it? 9 minutes difference.
Yeah, it does emphasize it, doesn't it? Although still amazing, like the run he had.
Oh yeah, great run.
Yeah,
I think he can, if he did another one, having learned what he's learned, and a bit more training behind him, maybe he could go run 207.
Yeah.
208. I don't think he's not a 205 guy at the minute. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what he does, because he was saying it like he's got that flexibility because they're on an Olympic cycle rather than.
Yeah. He did hint that he might do one in the autumn, didn't he? But
yeah, it'd be cool to see.
Yeah, that'd be tricky, but off the back of a summer of triathlon racing, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah. I wonder how much he races in the summer anyway. Yeah.
Right. Should we move on to our next topic then?
Yeah. So we've sort of grouped these a bit together, roughly. This group's probably like just the training. So I guess start off. It's from Instamac. So what's the impact of threshold training on VO2 max? Should newer runners train at threshold or faster? And he put in, exclamation marks, VO2 max. He said David Roach suggests non-elites would benefit from this approach. I think that's sort of going for the bang for your buck side of the, if you have X amount of time, train harder, I guess.
Do you want to start off on that one?
I don't think so. Like, I mean, you could, that's David Roach's argument on one side, but then, I've done some more reading into this. I've not read the 200-page Let's Run thread, but I don't want to call it the Norwegian singles approach, because I don't like, why are you chucking Norwegian on the front of everything? But I guess, but then I don't know what you call it. It's the guy called Spirok on Let's Run. That's his idea is that we
shouldn't be referring to Let's Run.
No, I think it's good. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. His idea is that you do 3 threshold sessions a week. I'm really simplifying it. There's more nuance to it than this, and then a longer run. Basically, I think his original approach was you have X amount of hours. You should make 30% of them threshold training in your week. So if you have 8 hours, then 30% of that should be between your first and second threshold.
That's a lot of hours, isn't it?
But then he's come from cycling. I think he's come from a time trial background, and his approach is like that's what sweet spot training is for cycling. And that has worked for him. He's in his debut marathon at London, he ran 2:24. It's
good.
So and you can there's debates online like, oh, he was doing cycling and time trials, like he was a good athlete anyway, but so that's someone that's gone the opposite way and said all of my training is at or below threshold.
And I guess he's a different situation but he was already a very well trained athlete, isn't it? But I mean, I would also disagree. And my reasons would be, there's 2 reasons. One is that the less well trained you are, the less specific your training needs to be to improve your VO2 max. There's studies out there, right? New runners, they will improve their VO2 max by jogging. Right? If you've been running for a couple of years, that's probably not the case. But when you're, but actually, your threshold is what? It's going to for someone who's been running a while, but not as super highly trained. Their LT2, their threshold might be 82% of their VO2 max. Well, that's still quite high intensity. And I would say that that's enough to probably push up your VO2 max. And I've had runners who have taken a really, double threshold approach to training and not done that much intensity and have already got a really high VO2 max, and their VO2 max has improved. So that would be my first point, is actually the less well trained you are, the lower the intensity probably needs to be to see further improvements in VO2 max. So you shouldn't be kidding yourself if you're a new runner. And the second reason is, if you're a new runner, you've not got that conditioning. You're not going to tolerate those high intensity intervals as well. Your injury risk is going to be higher. So you also shouldn't be doing it, because you're just not going to be, even if you have a really good response and a bigger response when doing threshold stuff, I think you'll just break down. I did do probably what would be classed more as VO2 max stuff when I was like 16, 17, 18. But I had a bigger breakthrough when I started doing more controlled stuff. And the more controlled I've gone, the faster I've got. But the problem is about N of 1 is I was probably always genetically predisposed to having a big VO2 max, because obviously training plays a part, but your genetics is, especially with VO2 max, going to play a part. There's only so big your heart can get. There's only so much growth you can have, and that's the main way you improve your VO2 max, increasing the size of your heart, increasing your stroke volume. Cardiac output is stroke volume times heart rate. You can't do anything about the heart rate side of the equation. That's set. So get a really big heart and pump more blood around the system. Plus interventions like altitude and potentially heat and stuff. Like, it's VO2 max is trainable, but it's only trainable to an extent. And I think I don't think smashing yourself doing VO2 max intervals is going to be the way to get someone really fit.
No, and especially even just if you're talking about someone that's, new to the sport, maybe a bit time pressed, like doing, you just end up doing a lot more volume and running if you do like a threshold session than a VO2 max session where you're doing like 1-to-1 rest periods. Like, so I think, it's probably holistically a better approach as well.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, rereading the question, it says non-elite, so you could still be a very good runner.
Yeah.
In which case, like, I think the same is still true. Like, you just, what if you're not a new runner, then actually your potential for VO2 max improvement is probably reduced. It's still, everyone can improve their VO2 max. Like, I'm sure I could if I really wanted to make that the main goal, improve my VO2 max. But overall, like, from what I see when people come to the lab, the main limiter isn't their VO2 max normally. It's their thresholds.
Yeah.
They're always quite low percentages of VO2 max relative to people who are more elite. The only exception might be older athletes, because their heart rate max is starting to drop, in which case the change is the reduction in heart rate max, and you can't do anything about that. So is that still, do you want to be doing, and if you're an older athlete, probably more predisposed to injuries as well. So do you, and when I'm saying old, I'm talking like 60 plus here probably. So again, like, just if you go back to what is going to promote good volume, consistent training, it's not hammering yourself doing VO2 max intervals. Yeah. Especially because people go too hard on the VO2 max intervals, like we discussed on that podcast in January about best way to improve your VO2 max.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of risk. And there's like I said, holistically more ways to train, or more better ways to train. I think what the other thing I was going to say probably comes under this question as well. So Adam asked the time it takes different adaptations to manifest. And I think this would be my other point, is like, if you're somewhat well, if you're like me, like a 10-12 week training block, I don't think my VO2 max is going to change that much anyway. No. Like, you're probably looking at it more over longer periods. And then if we're thinking about it from a testing in the lab perspective, like, there's going to be the device error of measurement, and then biological variation that's going to, I could have done everything right and actually my VO2 max could have gone up, but just a normal biological variation, it then looks like it's gone down. Like, it's I guess it's trying to separate the or when we talk about VO2 max, we are literally thinking, like, if you jump on the treadmill and you're hooked up to the CPET device, like, what's that reading versus, like, I think conventionally people think maybe VO2 max is like how fast you run a 3K or 5K.
Yeah.
Well, because VO2 max intervals are just 5K pace intervals. But so to answer Adam's question about different adaptations to manifest, like, it depends how well trained you are. It depends how much training you're doing. It depends on your starting point, depends what you then do from your starting point, and then it also loads of it depends here, and then it depends on, like, you and your specific physiology. So if you have, like, really poor economy, and then you start running a lot more, your economy is probably going to improve quite quick. But you might already have quite a high VO2 max genetically, and that's not going to change much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's thinking about your starting point, isn't it? How much of a stimulus were you given? If you've already been doing loads of like quotation marks VO2 max intervals, well, you've probably pulled that lever quite hard already. There's probably not much more you can get out of that. So if it's a new stimulus, you're going to get more from it. But I would generally go VO2 max is the one that plateaus the earliest in, like, you do 4 or 5 weeks of high intensity training, you might see a bit of a jump, but it's not gonna improve massively. Your thresholds in that time period could move. If we talk more about 10 weeks, like 12 weeks, then yeah, like thresholds could move on quite a lot. And again, economy will be a slower one. I think that's a longer burner one, but unlike VO2 max, it tends to just keep getting better, just more slowly. In the athletes that I've tested multiple times in my own data. I mean, with me, it might be a good example. Like when I first had a VO2 max test, I think it must have been about, how old would I have been? I think it was 2016. I had my first VO2 max test. Let me get my Power 10 up a minute. 1 second. This is great listing, isn't it? So let's have a look. Scroll back to 2016. I think my 5K time was, yeah.
Interesting
so I ran,
how quick you got to that.
Yeah, just speedy, you see.
Got it on your homepage on your phone.
2016. Well, if I just type in the Power 10, my profile pops up first. So 2016, my VO2 max was about 78, 79. My 5K time was 14:49. Fast forward to 2024, my VO2 max is basically the same. My 5K time is 14:05. That's quite a big jump, and it's definitely not just natural variation, day-to-day variation. My VO2 max is the same, but my performance is it's only 50. Well, it's only 40 seconds or whatever. But that's quite, at that level, that's quite a bit. If I could get another 40 seconds faster, I'd be delighted, So it's it's definitely thinking about, I guess I go back to your point of disassociating physiological VO2 max with what time can you run for 5K or 3K or whatever. Right, my 3K is the same. Like I was 2016, I think I've been running probably running about 8:30 maybe. Last time I ran one, I was 8:18. I reckon I could go a bit quicker if I actually raced them a few more. It's just disassociating those two.
Yeah.
Cool.
Should we jump onto the supplement one, I reckon?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. There was a lot in these, and we've hopefully going to have at least one interview about supplements. So we might leave. I think we'll leave a couple of them. But there was one.
Go on.
Yeah, one from a Grey Goals Gather on Instagram. Who said, "You talk about not having the perfect day-to-day diets. What would be the ideal runner diet?" I think you've been lumped in with me.
I think my diet's pretty good. I'm lumping Owain in here, who is Not
to give an insight into like my personal life too much, but I'm now in a group chat with some friends where we just count the amount of like fruit and vegetables we have in a meal and like across the day. So like I'm working on it. That's my step. I mean, first of all, for any endurance athlete, the ideal diet is probably just going to be meeting energy needs. Like, it probably doesn't.
That's your starting point, isn't it? 100% your starting point. And it's going to be the biggest determinant of can you keep doing the training you do. So energy, yeah, and then the second tier is probably carbohydrates, isn't it? Because that is the preferred fuel source of the body. We're more economical burning carbs, and like one of the things that's really interesting is if you look at people who have got RED-S, who've had relative energy deficiency in sport, like they're chronically underfueled, and you look at someone who's overtrained, so they've got the overtraining syndrome, the symptoms are almost identical. So you can become overtrained or maybe just under recovered by being too energy depleted, or carbohydrate depleted primarily. So I think you're right. Definitely have you got enough calories in your diet? Most of it coming from carbohydrates. That's actually a big starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you probably want them to be like not processed food and like a decent mix, I guess, as well of different forms of carbohydrate, not just sugar.
Yeah, because I think it's also breaking apart. Like, obviously, runners you eat processed sugar all the time, like energy gels and all this and that. But the difference, I guess, is if you're consuming it during exercise, that is getting burnt instantly, and probably potentially sparing your muscle glycogen a bit, which is going to be beneficial for your next training session, especially if you're doing doubles and stuff like that. But the physiological response to that sugar is going to be very different consuming it during exercise compared to eating it outside of exercise. Your glucose uptake by the muscle just gets upregulated instantly during exercise. Your liver pumps out blood glucose from breaking down glycogen stores, and that's going to get sucked up by the muscles without insulin. Whereas, not saying that insulin's bad, but you get a different physiological response if you're just sat on your sofa. If you had a gel on your sofa at home, having outside of exercise, you'd have a massive insulin spike.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a normal physiological response. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that is different. And so maybe you should really leave the more refined sugars for during exercise, and maybe relying a bit more on complex carbohydrates. UPF is the latest fad, isn't it? Non-ultra processed foods. And I think that's probably a good thing to live by, not eating too much UPF stuff. Anything that's been, you read the back of a label and you can't understand what the ingredients are. It's probably not a good sign.
Yeah, just having colourful plates of food.
Yeah, it's keeping it basic, because you do need fruit and veg. That is going to obviously support all the processes of your body. Like, vitamins are an essential, but also there's so many things we don't even know why. We don't know why vegetables are fantastic for us, but they are fantastic for us, and we're still learning out why that is all the time. Obviously, there's vitamins in there, fiber. They're also not energy dense, which actually sometimes can be an issue if you are really doing loads and loads of training. It's how do you get all that food into you? And I think, especially with some of the triathletes I work with, that is a logistical challenge. Like, how do you get enough calories to fuel 30 hours of training a week and not feel awful? So I think we need to get, we've had some nutrition. I think we still can have some more nutrition based podcasts, because neither of us are experts in nutrition. But yeah, I think energy, top tier, carbohydrates, second tier, fruit, veg, micronutrients, all that sort of stuff. Protein requirements for a marathon, for a runner, aren't that different from the day-to-day person. And problem with taking too much protein is that then going to limit how much carbohydrates you can get in, because it just makes you feel full and stuff like that. So, have some protein with every meal, but you don't need to be smashing protein powders. Would be my key takeaway there. Hydration, really important this time of year. Don't worry about the electrolytes.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah, and if you're eating a diet with lots of fruit and veg, you don't need the electrolytes. Yeah, it's all.
Or just yeah.
Yeah, it's all. You can all get it naturally, can't you? So then this is from Mark K on the Google form. He says, is there any benefit to fasted long runs for marathon training? Does hitting the wall in training invoke any positive adaptations like mitochondrial biogenesis? I did some fasted 30k runs in my training before my last marathon, and it was absolutely grueling and my performance was shit. But then in the race, I felt so good in comparison, it boosted my confidence. So I think when we talked about durability, this was one of the suggested possible ways of improving durability, wasn't it? Was, fasted long runs. I'm going to group fasted long runs and not taking in carbohydrate during. I think just keep them grouped together for a shorter answer. But yeah, like that was one of the suggested ideas for possibly enhancing durability. Obviously, then the drawback, as Mark said in his question, was you feel rubbish during it, and you possibly increase the amount of recovery time it takes from that run. Like you're going to feel cooked the rest of the day, and you're probably going to feel cooked the next day. Whereas if you fuel adequately before and during, you're probably going to feel from personal experience, you feel a lot better. I don't think there's necessarily a direct like doing this does this, especially when it comes to mitochondria.
Yeah, I mean, no. So what I'd say is there is some literature. God, who's the Australian nutritionist? Louise Burke. Who they have shown some stuff, but yeah, if you do training in a fasted state, you increase the adaptation response a little bit, and it's always does your increase in PGC1 alpha, does that actually directly translate into increased mitochondrial biogenesis? It's hard to follow it all the way to the end point of adaptation, and then from adaptation to performance. However, I would say that, yeah, like you feel awful doing it, but it also is going to take you longer to recover from it. If you completely deplete your muscle glycogen stores, they take a lot longer to replete or refill them than if you'd only half depleted them, if that makes sense. So if you get to zero, that's associated with a big inflammatory response, a lot of muscle soreness, and it's going to take you much longer to get those muscle glycogen stores back up. So that's going to directly impact your ability to do the training for the rest of a week. So if you did that run on a Sunday, then you might be wiped out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And if we look at cycling, they've gone the complete opposite way. At one point, they were doing loads of fasted stuff. Like if we talk about the time of Chris Froome and Bradley Wiggins, that was the buzzword. They were doing like 6 hours eating butter and stuff like that, weren't they? Stupid stuff. And now they've gone the complete opposite, where they're fueling every single ride really aggressively, super high carb. And that seems to be leading to better performances. So I think if you're time crunched and you can't physically get out to do the amount of training you need to do, maybe doing some fasted stuff is fine, because actually you don't need to worry about recovery between runs because you've got 48 hours, for example. And maybe that might help you get a bit more stress for if you're a time crunched athlete. But if I've tried to do that, I would be in a hole very quickly. If I was trying to do like fasted runs all the time, or even just one deliberately fasted run. I mean, I can go out and run at an easy pace for 2 hours, and I do sometimes without breakfast and fueling and feel fine. But if I was going to go out and do a marathon specific session or a hard long run, I could probably get through it, but it would feel worse, and I would be I'd take a long time to get over that.
Yeah.
So my it's context dependent, but I think for most people, fueling is better.
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, there's obviously no literature about it yet, but the way I've thought about it is like because it's easier when you run in the morning to do this, but like my easy runs, like I won't eat beforehand. So my thinking is maybe I get some of those benefits, but it's not really depleting me. And then for sessions and long runs, like fuel before and during. And yeah, maybe that's a bit of a best of both worlds. Like that's the way to approach it. But I don't know what benefit it's having.
It's a balance, isn't it? Like if anything, the world seems to be leaning towards more fueling, not less fueling. And in general, I think that is a better approach, but it's so dependent on how much training you're doing. Like you're doing like 120-ish, 130K.
8.5 hours a week sort of thing.
Yeah. If you took the same approach and you're doing 12 hours a week, Would you be able to? Would you start breaking down without doing that? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's and if you're doing 4 hours a week, then you probably don't need to worry about it too much at all. It's one of those ones where the more you train, the more nutrition becomes important.
Yeah. Should we do a couple more?
Yeah, let's do a couple more.
So the more general ones. So this is one I was really interested. I'm glad we got asked this. So about career paths. So this was from Jamie on Instagram, and he just said advice for people looking to get into a physiology career. How did we get where we are? And then I put in brackets like at the moment I'm unemployed. So don't know if you want advice about that, Jamie. I think maybe the way to take this is if we were like start back if we were like 16, 17 again, deciding on university, because I think, to be honest, like the entry point now is you have to go to university.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. There's not another way in terms of doing it as a career, I think. And I don't know, I'm happy to go first because I was thinking about this morning. I think that I would actually. So my thought was either and we'll talk about UK because we only know the UK. My thought would be, if I was going to do a sports science undergrad, I would only do it at somewhere like Loughborough or maybe like University of Birmingham. If I wasn't, I would then be thinking about doing something like biomedical science or clinical physiology. And my reason for saying those is, and doing, again, this is getting like in the weeds, but doing accredited degrees in those subjects. And my reason is that you still, especially if you want to go into physiology, obviously biomechanics is different. Like you want to be doing sports science then. But if you just want to do physiology, like those 2 degrees would probably give you a better underpinning of human physiology. And because you've done an accredited degree, you can then, if you decide you don't want to go any further, or as we're about to say, it's really hard to get a career in sports science, you can then get into the NHS doing those jobs. I would say one of the things I found is that even though I've done a lot of the things that a clinical physiologist does, I can't do that job because I don't have an accredited clinical physiology degree. Maybe one of the, I don't know, a problem in the UK at the moment is there's a lot of stuff that's like accredited and you have to follow very specific paths. And if you don't follow it, there's no, even if you have skills and aptitude, you can't cross over. So that would be my thinking for undergrad. And then if you're still like, yeah, I want to be a sports scientist and a physiologist, you can still then get into a sports science master's, but you have an undergrad degree that allows a job still at the end of it. Because a sports science undergrad, I feel quite confident in saying won't get you a job in sports science. Like you need to do a master's. And then and then you also need to be doing a lot on the side. So the other thing I'd say is if you're going to do an undergrad, even if it's, like I said, biomedical science, still be trying to find internships and ways to help out, even if it's just taking some lactate samples at the track, like just doing something extra to set you apart. But yeah, I that was my thought, was because there was people on my course and Dan did a biomedical science undergrad. You have a really good understanding of some very like mechanistic physiology, and yeah, you won't have exposure to biomechanics, but depends where your career wants to go.
Who cares about that? Like it's bloody boring. It's just angles and stuff, and forces, whatever. Yeah. No, I'm on the same page as you. I would either, if I was to go back again, I would either do one of the top sports science courses in the UK. So yeah, University of Birmingham. Or Loughborough, UCL, maybe.
Sorry, just to jump in again. Part of the reason I say they're one of the top courses is because of the extra stuff. So in terms of the opportunities, so it's not necessarily the course; it's what else is there.
That is a big part of it. But yeah. I also think universities, but also have a school of medicine, a school of biomedical sciences. There are just more connections and they'll be doing more advanced research or access to more advanced techniques. So yeah, I think I'm 100% go to one of the best places in the country to do it, or or like you said, go and do a biomedical science or human physiology course. I did biomedical science specializing in human physiology at Cardiff Uni, but wasn't accredited, which was a big downside. But it did give me, but I think coming from that background, like you said, I had a really good understanding of human physiology, and then it's applying the sport context to it, which, I learned all about energy systems in my human physiology degree, but then it's much easier to apply exercise to it rather than going, right, I'm starting from a context of sport. How does my body work during sport? Well, I think you really need to start with how is my body working just day to day, and thinking about things like gene expression and oxidative phosphorylation and beta oxidation and all these sort of things that take place. It just gives you a more well-rounded understanding of human physiology before you actually get to the exercise point. There are negatives, like I've never done any biomechanics, sports psych, nutrition. I pick stuff up because I'm interested, and you just naturally come across it as part of being in an institution where that stuff is going on. But like I said, if you definitely want to go into physiology, then I think that's a good starting point as well. And the other thing is, like you said, just getting involved in any opportunity you can, because even with a master's, so many people have got a master's in sports science. You need to be able to show that no one's going to employ you just because you've got a master's in sports science. They will employ you because you've got a master's in sports science and you've worked with this football team, you've supported, Welsh athletics, whatever, like a hopefully professional level, but if not club level athlete, and you've experienced what it's like to work as an applied sports scientist. And unfortunately, that is going to mean working for free for a bit, which it shouldn't be like that, but that's the way it is because clubs have no money, so they will employ, in quotation marks, a sports scientist, or they'll have an intern sports scientist, or they're not an intern, they are just the sports scientist working for nothing.
We know plenty of people that have done jobs that should have been paid, and like people were surprised when we say like, oh, this person did this for free with this team. And like coming back to, well, where maybe decide on where you're going to go based on the availability of those opportunities. So like Cardiff Met is really good because there is so much sport going through Cardiff Met. There's loads of opportunities. So you could go to Cardiff Met and do biomedical science, and then like Dan, you at the moment coordinate placements. I'm sure if you got an email from someone doing the biomedical science degree that was really enthusiastic,
we've had people,
you would say yes.
It's why Loughborough's good, because there's so much going on, but at the same time there's more students and it's more competitive, isn't it, to get those placements. Cardiff is a good place to be. I'm not plugging Cardiff here. I'm not you're not saying it's great or it's awful, but Cardiff has, and probably the same in like Glasgow, Edinburgh, they've got the advantage of the national teams are based there, and so Stirling, I guess, isn't it, in Scotland? A lot of stuff happens there, doesn't it? All the national teams will be based in Cardiff, for example. Welsh athletics, Welsh triathlon, Welsh hockey, Welsh swimming's in Swansea, actually, isn't it? But
swimming and rowing at Swansea, aren't they? And then
but so much of it is based out of Cardiff. Whereas you go think about England, then stuff's spread all over the place. London's a good hub, but Loughborough, Birmingham, Manchester, you got the whole
Leeds as well.
Leeds, there's it spreads. It's more spread out. So if you, which it's pluses and minuses, I guess. But that's probably our best answer, isn't it?
And just say yes to everything. Like get involved. If you're at university, just ask to help out. Like people will say yes. I had a couple of people come and help me take a few samples for my study. Like as much as anything, it's kind of nice for someone else to just be there to chat to. So just get involved as much as possible and just do more than just the course. And also the other thing I'd maybe say is like having worked and not taken like the normal path, having worked and then come back to uni, like being in a physiology lab, or if you're into biomechanics, being in a biomechanics lab and just getting involved in research and helping people out is, and this is for people that haven't just gone straight to uni, but it is so much better than working. Like, it's so, like, just make the most of it. There'll be a point, there'll be a point 5 years down the line where you're like, oh, I wish I'd done a bit more whilst I was in a physiology lab.
The best students I've worked with are those who have not come. They've either done an undergrad, come away and done some work, and then come back to be a master's, or they've done an undergraduate degree later in life. They're the ones who are so much more proactive and take all the opportunities and just have some of those basic life skills that sometimes 18, 19, 20-year-olds don't always have, without generalizing. But yeah, I think, let's, should we move on to that last question then?
Yeah. One thing we'd change about running, this is from Dave Long, member of
Disco Dave.
Yeah. I don't, have you thought about this? Do you want to go first, or shall I?
I can go first if you like.
Yeah.
One thing.
Sorry, I was going to say I thought about it as one small, throwaway thing and then a bigger thing. So if you want to take that approach.
Yeah.
Throwing you a curveball now.
You have. I mean, one thing, I've not spent a lot of time thinking about this. Sorry, Dave. But one thing that the puzzle that I want to solve is running is the biggest participation sport in the world. Why is there no bloody money in it? How do we get the participation into performance? That's why two parts. It's getting people from participating into performance, but also how do governing bodies, whoever, World Athletics, capitalize on that participation and convert that into funding for top level athletes? Because even the best in the world, the top 10 in the world are paid very good money. The 11th to 100th person in the world in any given event group is not making good money. Relating it to things like football, rugby, I could try and think of other sports. I guess football dominates, doesn't it? But in terms of the funding,
yeah,
there's such a we are in the middle of another running boom. Like, running is ridiculous at the minute. But how can we capitalize on that? Because if you want to be a professional runner, and I mean actually professional, not just like you've got a contract but you're still working 2 other jobs, you need to be at a level which is insane. Like, I was the 8th fastest person in the marathon in the UK last year. In an event in a discipline that's dominated by East Africans, so in a world context, that's way down. But this is not my soapbox, although maybe it is my soapbox. But
it's the whole podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I should be. I should just be honest, shouldn't I? I mean, Saw have supported our podcast. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much again, Saw. But I've got no sponsors. I might win a bit of prize money, but I'm not a professional in any term, in any stretch of the imagination. And I'm not saying I should be. I'm a 2:12:59 marathon runner. I'm a world record's 2:01. But you'd think that with the amount of people that are running, this isn't a minority niche sport. You'd think there'd be more, more funding higher up the pathway, because there's Olympians who are working second jobs.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'm the lowest, but yeah, like there's, people like, well, Clara Evans went to the Olympics, went professional like a year ago, finally got to the point where she could go pro because of funding. And there's numerous other examples of people operating at the highest level, but not making any money. And it's not like, even if you're really good, running isn't setting you up for life.
Yeah.
It's you'll pay the bills for now, and then when you retire from running, you get another job.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, mine's similar. My small one, very quick, is just runners on their phones. Like, so I almost got run into by someone on the Taft Trail this morning because they were on their phone whilst they're running, and I'm like, I've got here avoiding all the drivers on their phones. and then but it's outrunning texting, like just put your phone away, but also at the start of a marathon, or the end of a marathon, the amount of people filming. But
my small thing that needs to change is those bloody phone straps that sit on your chest.
Oh, phone bras,
whatever they're called. Yeah. That would drive me right up. That'd be so annoying. I've never run with my phone, unless
I carry it in my hand.
I just don't. I like that time not having my phone. But yeah, I'll let you get on.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the point. No, and then my big one is similar to yours. It's like just the sustainability of running. And actually, on your point, I read a really interesting. I'll put it. I don't know. I might check it on Insta. I read a newsletter, like a weekly newsletter thing, and it was someone just talking about, like, they went to all of the brand activations around London, like around the London Marathon. The main one was the Nike one that they went to, and their question is just like, have we hit peak running? The amount of money, and like you see the pictures from the Nike pop up, but it's a whole new store and it's on like Regent Street. And it's just a bit mental. It was quite an interesting read, like asking have we hit peak running, which I think, similar to your point, like Nike are making loads of money, but it's maybe not getting to athletes. But yeah, I know, I don't know, I just worry about the sustainability of running, like in terms of how much it costs to enter events, and then you don't actually get loads back for them. And just especially in the UK, there's a bit of a monopolization of running events, and then they can charge more money for running events.
It's also, I guess, for sustainability, environmental impact.
Yeah, environmentally. And like I sometimes I think of running as a bit of a like if you're out running at 6 a.m, like you're a bit of a, not in a bad way, but you're a bit of a loner and you're a bit of a rebel. Like you're going against maybe some societal like norms, but then I don't know if I'm just
too mainstream. That's your argument now. It's too mainstream.
Maybe
you want to just be you off on your own, running romantically at 6 a.m. at sunrise through the empty streets of Cardiff. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just worry that it feels like there's more and more I don't know whether it's massive organizations or just individual people just trying to extract from running. And like it's the same.
Are we being lumped into that bracket?
Maybe,
bracket? Maybe.
As I say that on my podcast. I don't know. So it just crosses my mind a lot, and I don't know the answer. I think we've
that, didn't it? Got a bit deep.
Yeah. One more question, way less deep. What animal could we take in a race?
Sprint or marathon?
Yes, I put sprint or marathon here because I think it's different, isn't it? But okay, what animal could you take in 100 meters?
Not many animals.
Not many.
A worm. That's the way I'm setting my bar. I'd beat an elephant in a marathon, I reckon.
Yeah, but no, even 100 meters. Do you reckon you could take an elephant?
No.
I
feel that once they're up to speed, they're moving, I reckon.
But I think you could get far enough ahead.
Yeah.
Like they're big. Their power to weight ratio might not be as good as yours.
Yeah, you could be right there. All right, an elephant just regardless.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a sweet spot with an elephant.
Any distance.
100 meters, you'd beat it. 400 meters, it's beating you. Over 800 meters, you're beating the elephant. You can't sustain that power output.
There is some interesting, like, let's keep it on topic of the podcast. There is some interesting papers from Mark Burnley talking about the physiology of animals, which are worth a read.
Wait a minute, you've got me Googling. All right, so an African bush elephant can reach a top speed of 40 kilometers an hour.
But how long does it take to reach that speed?
Yeah, it's not like keeping at that speed for very long, is it? I reckon you're right.
It's 0 to 40 is slow, whereas
it's not accelerating like a human. There we go. Should we wrap it? Leave it on that.
Yeah, let's leave it there. We've completely lost the plot. Thank you for all the questions and the feedback. It
was good. Yeah, we'll get some. We've got some interviews planned. We have some more. We've got plenty of ideas for topics that we'll be working through over the next few months.
if we didn't answer your question, some of them are going to either be in those topics or are their own topic. So yeah, we will hopefully get to all of them in the near future. But yeah, thanks for listening as always. Thanks for the support, and yeah, I guess we'll catch everyone next time.